helped put some of the mafia's most notorious leaders behind bars. He's also one of the few FBI agents ever charged with murder. It was his relationship with a violent mob informant known as the Grim Reaper that got him and the FBI in trouble. He's telling the story for the first time in a new book, and to us tonight. It's rare to get...
I didn't make any bargains with the devil. I wasn't dancing with the devil. I was dancing with a guy that was very close to the devil. He was a tough guy. But that was what they were paying me to do. All
right. Basically, what I want you guys to understand is this. The FBI created the Top Echelon program. The Top Echelon program is a program designed to infiltrate criminal organizations. Instead of locking guys up, you use guys because they have access to these high criminal organizations. Whitey Bulger was a Top Echelon informant. The Boston FBI office was after the Italian mob. They had designated the Italian mob their #1 priority. Whitey Bulger was a part of the Irish mob, but they were friendly with the Italian mob, so they figured this. We will allow Whitey Bulger to commit murders, sell drugs, and do what he do on a criminal level as long as he turns in the Italian mob guys, and he did that. Every single one of the heads of the Italian mob in Boston were brought down by Whitey Bulger and got life sentences. That's what the Top Echelon Informant program is all about. This guy, Greg Scarpa, he is the guy that the guy who just finished speaking, the FBI agent who got locked up for murder, he was dealing with him. Long story short, Gregory Scarpa was called the Grim Reaper because he had over 100 bodies. He killed over 100 people. Linda Vecchio worked with Greg Scarpa from 1980 to 1993. However, Greg Scarpa was working for the FBI from 1960 to 1993. In 1980, he just stopped working because his first handler retired. Linda Vecchio approached him in 1980, and he said, hey, I noticed you was working for us earlier. Would you like to come back? Greg Scarpa said he negotiated a contract. You pay this amount of money to me, I'll come back. And the FBI said, okay. Now, that's the Top Echelon Informant program. The reason why Linda Vecchio got charged with murder is because Greg Scarpa was committing murders, and they say that Linda Vecchio was giving him that information. They're basically saying that Linda Vecchio got so committed to Greg Scarpa because he's talking to him on the phone every day. Greg Scarpa's giving him information every day. He got to a point where he wanted Greg Scarpa to win. So if somebody was like talking and saying, hey, Greg Scarpa's an informant, blah, 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 Linda Vecchio would tell Greg Scarpa, and next thing you know, that person would turn up dead. Greg Scarpa, he was one of the biggest drug dealers in the Colombo family, all of that. He was a very big Italian mobster. No, people did think that he was an informant, but they were scared to say it to his face because he would kill anybody that said that. If somebody came to him and said, Greg, I think you're a wreck, because mind you, he told on everything about everybody. If you just hijacked the 18-wheeler, which was a big crime back in Gregory Scarpa's day, hijacking 18-wheelers, and you stole a shipment of dresses, and you came to Greg Scarpa, and that's the only person you told about it, and next thing you know, you get locked up a day later, and you say, hey, man, I told Greg Scarpa about these dresses, he's the only one I told, and next thing you know, I got locked up. He'll come find you and kill you. And Linda Vecchio apparently gave him that info. Now, this is how the information is given in the Top Echelon Informant program. These things are called telecasts. They're messages. You call, the Top Echelon Informant calls, hey, blah, 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 this is what happened. Greg Scarpa. I'm sorry about that. Greg Scarpa, this is 1963. Informant advised that in recent contacts with Locirio had declined to discuss family business. Informant stated that Locicero is presently spending his time redacted and that Locicero redacted are peddling various items like radios, t-shirts, etc. Informant stated that he does not feel that these items are stolen inasmuch as Locirio would not run the risk of being caught with stolen items, and he is openly peddling them on the street to everyone he comes in contact with. Alright, so it's just basic information. If he knows about a murder, he'll talk about that. But his job was to tell about anything, big and small. 1963, informant advised that he had recently heard that blank from the Lower East Side are made guys and that they run a large numbers operation on the Lower East Side. Informant was unable to furnish any additional identifying details regarding these individuals or what family they were in. So, Greg Scarpa's job was to report about everything and anything. It didn't matter, murders, whatever. I just showed you what Greg Scarpa was talking about in 1963 to the FBI. He been doing it. He was on their payroll from 1963 to the 1993. you know. All right. 1980. Source advised that Jimmy Angelino was recently hit on orders of Junior Persico. Junior Persico was Carmine Persico. He was the boss of the family that Scarpa was in. All right, so now that I showed you how the information is disseminated and what kind of information is given, Mob James, we know that Mob James was working from 2000 to 2004. In 2000, he buys the drugs from FG. In 2000, and he had an FBI agent sitting in the car pretending to be his homeboy. 4 years later, in 2004, he goes to FG's nightclub with his friends. These friends turn out to be FBI agents. They came up to FG later on when he was on trial and said, hey, that was us. You let us in the club half price. Okay, so we know that Mob James has been working with the FBI from 2000 to 2004. The FBI loved Death Row. They were very interested in Death Row because Harry O was an investor. He was in the feds for life at the time. There was a lot of criminal activity speculated to be happening at Death Row. Mob James had so much access to Death Row. If Mob James was working for the FBI, and mind you, in FG's paperwork in 2004, it says that he was paid by the FBI. Mob James didn't catch a case and told on FG to get a reduction in his time or to beat the case. He wasn't in trouble. He got paid a substantial amount of money. That information was redacted, but it says that he was paid for his services. So we know that Mob James was getting paid by the FBI from 2000 to 2004. That's 4 years worth of work. So is it really a stretch to say that he was working in 1996 when Pac was alive? So imagine this. FBI and law enforcement was all over Death Row. You know that, I know that. You know and I know that they were very interested to find out what was going on at Death Row at the time. The Harry O invested in Death Row. Suge, the Pyrus, Buntry, all of these guys who had just got out the feds, just got out the state. Reggie Wright, he's ex-law enforcement. I mean, FBI wanted to know what was going on. Death Row had security guards that were police officers who got hemmed up in a bank robbery. So you mean to tell me the FBI, if they got a guy like Mob James working for them, and all of this criminal mischief is going on with police officers and former police officers, don't you think they want to know what's going on? Don't you think they paid Mob James? Hey, Mob James, we really want to know what the hell is going on in Death Row. You guys got former police officers, current police officers in there fraternizing with gangbangers. You guys got gangbangers who just came home from the feds in the States with bodies. Serious gangbangers working alongside police officers. We need to know what's going on up in that camp. And you got Tupac? So you mean to tell me if James was working from 2000 to 2004, he couldn't have been working when Pac was alive in 96? James didn't just meet the FBI in 2000. No. These people who work for this top echelon program, they work for years and years. So yes, I do believe that Mob James was informing to the FBI. He had a handler, and he was giving them information when Pac was alive. That's how I feel, and I'm basing this on what I know about the top echelon informant program. James was a high-ranking individual in this gang, and he was a high-ranking person who had access to the Death Row Circle, and the Death Row Circle was under a microscope. And you mean to tell me the FBI wasn't going to use one of their resources, James, to find out what was going on? Come on.